Hey guys, so we're going to talk a little bit about stress today and how the modern world has really altered the landscape in which we exist and experience stress. When you think about stress, it's actually not all bad. Stress can be a really great force to have in our lives, but it's all a matter of dose. Stress is a really dose-specific thing. And so let's think about what that exactly means. And training is actually a really great example to see how stress is dose specific. Let's look at lifting weights. So by lifting weights, we're actually going to stress our muscles. We're going to put stress on our muscles so that they adapt and change and get super strong and all those awesome things. And that's awesome. We love that. But let's say we're lifting weights every single day at high intensity for 2 weeks straight. At some point, that stress is going to tip over from being a really adaptive, a really positive force, to being a really destructive, really deteriorating force. And that's when we get injured. That's when we're overtraining. And that's a really great example of how stress can be phenomenal in acute scenarios. But it can be super destructive in chronic situations. And this chronic situation is really where the modern world comes in, where stress has shifted from the acute response that it used to be, like let's say back in the day on the Savanna, to a really chronic, sustained, just grinding force that it is today in what we're going to call the modern Savanna. That is the world. So let's like take a look back though at what stress used to be and what it still is, but the story in which it used to exist. And the best way to look at that is actually the Savanna. Stress is a survival response. We literally needed it to run away from lions. And so what stress is it's to some degree our fight or flight response. It's our ability to stand up and fight that lion or to get out of dodge. And in order for that to happen, a couple things have to happen in our body. So our digestion becomes impaired because the last thing you want to do from running away from a lion is digest your lunch. Like that's not important anymore. So blood goes away from our digestive tract and goes towards our muscles, so getting those ready to go. Our heart rate increases, our blood pressure increases. We might have like a moment of mental clarity where we're like, oh, that is the best path to get away from that lion. And then also our blood sugar is going to increase. So what our body is going to mobilize all of some of our stored blood sugar, and it's going to keep our blood sugar really high so that we have this constant source of energy. Because when you're running away from a lion, you need all the fuel you can get. But what's really different about that lion versus the metaphorical lions of today is that you have two options with the lion of the past. And both are going to result in you not being stressed out anymore. So one is you escape that lion. You run away. Lion's gone. Stressor's gone. You're not stressed anymore. The other is that the lion, he gets you. And you're not stressed out anymore. But so either way, like this is going to be a really acute scenario. But let's shift this now to the modern day. And let's look at all the stressors that are available to us from when we wake up in the morning to when we go to bed at night. So let's say we wake up. We didn't get enough sleep. Stressor number one. We're rushed getting out of the house. We didn't eat breakfast. Stressor 2 and 3. We get stuck in traffic. We get cut off. We're late for work. That's 4, 5, 6. Let's say we don't really like our job. 7. We drag ourselves to the gym even though it's the 7th day in a row we've gone. 8. We're so tired by the time we get home that we just eat leftovers and ice cream standing up in front of the fridge. think we're at 8. And then we end up flipping through Facebook for 2 hours and get to sleep late again. That's 9. And we'll throw in 10 for another poor night's sleep. And then we do it all again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And what's so different about that landscape is that the stress is ongoing, that we never run away from that lion and have all that time to relax and socialize and sit around that we used to have. So instead of spending just a short amount of time in that fight or flight response and then going into our other system, which is going to be rest and digest, and we want to exist in that system for most of our existence, we spend almost all of our time now in fight or flight. And even though we might conceptualize those stressors as being different, so even though lack of sleep is going to feel a little bit different than not being happy in your job, than overtraining, and maybe fighting with your significant other, even though all those stressors, we define them differently in our head, we still are going to have, to some degree, the same chemical response. And that comes down to our stress hormones, which are going to involve cortisol and epinephrine and norepinephrine. And to some degree, with all those stressors, those hormones are going to be activated and are going to create this stress cascade that we talked about when we saw that lion, that increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, high blood sugar levels, impaired digestion. That's going to happen every time we initiate that stress response. And that cascade leads to just a whole slew of problems, including chronic inflammation, which is going to be the root of most of today's modern diseases, things like type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, inflammatory brain conditions, so things from depression to Alzheimer's to dementia to Parkinson's. All these things, to some degree, have their root in inflammation. So the more we can reduce stress, the more we can reduce inflammation. And when we think about stress, again, we want to think about this additive quality of stress. So how all of these stressors add up to equal our total stress load. And when we understand that stress load is really an additive process, then we have so much more control over the variables that lead up to that. And thus, we have so much more control over reducing our total stress. And that is just going to be huge in bringing us back down into this rest and digest system, to decreasing our stress and increasing how much fun we're having in life, because we don't want to be stressed out all the time. Stress out sucks. We want to be happy. We want to laugh and play and all those things. So let's talk about 5 ways in which we can reduce stress right now. And one of the biggest one, number 1, is going to be sleep. And I know that is so much more easily said than done, but sleep is just our foundation. There's been a narrative that keeps getting perpetuated, I think, that the less you sleep, the tougher you are. You know, like if you get 6 hours of sleep, you are a bad ass. And, you know, it's so false. You're really just grumpy and not functioning very well. If we can shift this narrative around to sleep being, you know, our foundation, instead of you can sleep when you're dead, sleep in, the exact opposite of that, sleep and live a full, happy life, then we're really going to be able to experience ourselves at our full potential. So just making sleep a priority, changing the narrative in your head, is step number 1. Number 2 is going to be breathe. And this is one of the cheapest, most easily accessible biohacks that you have at your fingertips. And breathing is going to include just taking 5 to 10 deep breaths whenever you feel yourself getting overwhelmed. And a really good one too is whenever you sit down for a meal. Take just 5 or 10 deep breaths. And what that's going to do is shift you out of that fight or flight response and into the rest and digest. So it's going to bring you into that ideal place to digest your food and to just exist in life. Number 3 is going to be disconnect. we spend so much time connected to some device, to Instagram, to Facebook, to our TV. And I think we get kind of lost in that and get used to that constant stimulation and just that pace of flipping through Facebook. So turning them off, creating a social media blackout window is huge. I just started implementing this a couple months ago, and I can't even tell you how much it has changed my life. It has been a game changer. I like to shut off social media from 7 p.m. on every night, and also I take Sundays totally off, and it's awesome. It's huge. Number 3 is, oh, am I already on 3? I'm on 4. Number 4 is play, laugh, be a human being. Really try to take some of that seriousness out of life and just get outside and move. Be a human. And then number 5 is meditate. And meditation can be really daunting. And when I say meditation, I don't mean you have to like give up all your possessions and spend hours and hours meditating. I mean, take 5 to 20 minutes every day to just be still and quiet and breathe. One of my favorite tools for this is the Headspace app. And they do an intro session that is 10 sessions of 10 minutes of guided meditations. And it's just a really smart, really funny, really accessible app that is it's the first time I've ever been able to actually meditate. Usually I give up in like 2 times, and I'm totally hooked on Headspace. I use it every single day. So 5 ways to reduce stress tomorrow, today, right now. Sleep, breathe, play, disconnect, and meditate. Let's bring that stress down. Okay, good luck.